The Romney campaign, by the way, just issued its first statement on the shootings in Afghanistan. It says, in part, Governor Romney believes the killings are reprehensible and shares the anguish of the victims' families. These acts by one soldier are not representative of the courageous and honorable conduct of our armed forces. Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum have also condemned the killings and had this to say Sunday.
We have to either make the decision to make a full commitment, which this president has not done, or we have to decide to get out and probably get out sooner.
I think it's very likely that we have tragically lost the lives and suffered injuries to a considerable number of young Americans on a mission that we're going to discover is not doable.
So let's bring in our News Nation political panel, associate editor and columnist for the Hill newspaper, A.B. Stoddard, and nationally syndicated conservative radio show host Steve Deace, who's endorsed Newt Gingrich. Steve, I'll start off with you because you've endorsed Newt Gingrich here. I marvel, and I think a lot of people, at some of the language from both Mr. Santorum and Mr. Gingrich as far as the commitment here. And I want to go back in time and compare the record of the previous administration and the war that was once called the Forgotten War in Afghanistan, because that administration, the Bush administration, did not focus on it. But here you have hundreds of millions of dollars later spent on this war. What do you make of the statements from those three candidates, especially your two frontrunners?
I think that what is often the case, especially with 24-hour news cycles, Tamron, and with what folks like you and I do for a living, I think it's almost unavoidable. But the old saying that politics is policy or policy is politics, I think that gets amplified about 100-fold. And I think people make statements. I think maybe the president made statements running for election in 2008. John Kerry made statements in 2004. You pointing out some of the things that Gingrich is saying now, and I'm guessing back in October 2001 when we first went to Afghanistan, all the Republicans were gung-ho about going in there in the first place. And then in 2004, when Bush ran for re-election, well, we can't pull out. We've got to see this thing through. Right. And in the end, this is what happens when everything becomes partisan. The reality is that what we're trying to do here with nation building is really almost unprecedented in human history. We are taking two cultures that could not be any more different in terms of their presuppositions and the premise that they begin their own existence from, and we're trying to find a way to marry them together. And it's a very dirty, sloppy, ineffective process. And the thing that I'm the most concerned about, you know, I'm the same age as this soldier. I've got friends of mine, close friends, that I've said goodbye to 2 or 3 different times in my age group that have gone to Iraq or gone to Afghanistan. And my concern is that while we continue kind of circling the drain of nation building here, that the American people's resolve to confront a real threat of a nuclear Iran might have been worn down because they rightfully are looking at Iraq and Afghanistan and asking themselves, what is the point?
Yeah, you're no fan of Mitt Romney. You make that no secret, and you've taken him on even during the caucus in Iowa. He waited until today to release a written statement on this. In fact, our in-bed could not get close enough to ask him a question. He was asked on a radio interview later today. He has a radio interview later today, and it may be his first public comment on tape or on radio. But what do you make of this statement, even though he has aggressively attacked the president's strategy in Afghanistan?
Well, if it wasn't Mitt Romney, I'd actually like to give him credit for showing restraint, for not immediately running to the first camera or microphone to try to score political points on a key and crucial foreign policy issue. But since it's Mitt Romney, I probably won't do that.
Wow. Well, the Republicans, by the way, evenly split on this issue. According to that new poll, 47% say the war is worth it, and 47% saying it was not worth it. That's in that new poll. But, A.B., let me switch you to the Southern strategy. A big day tomorrow. Our First Read team points out it really is anyone's game when you look at these two contests tomorrow, which is intriguing for many reasons. A, because Mitt Romney is competitive in 2 southern states. Many people thought he just would not be able to put up a good fight. On the other hand, he's putting up a lot of money to put up a good fight.
No, that's right. I mean, the various polls have all 3 of them ahead, so it really is quite suspenseful. It's a big, important night for all 3 of the contenders. Newt Gingrich needs to stay alive. Rick Santorum needs to knock Mitt Romney out of the South, and Mitt Romney needs to prove he can win in the South with those evangelical voters that people keep saying he can't win with. And so he has the endorsement of the governors of both states, so he remains the establishment figure. That could help him. But as Michael Smerconish has pointed out before, there is a lot of resistance to the Mormon religion in the Deep South. So we really, as you said, it's anybody's game and it's anybody's guess, and we really have no idea who goes in with the advantage. We know that whoever comes out with the win really needs it in those two contests, and they'll be propelled forward, I think, with the exception of Newt Gingrich, if they win tomorrow night.
And here's a little food for thought. The pro-Romney super PAC has dropped nearly $2 million in advertising in those two states, which is interesting. But Steve, I want to go back to something that happened on the Daily Rundown with Chuck Todd. He asked Newt Gingrich's advisor about rumors that Gingrich and Rick Perry perhaps are talking about a presidential ticket. Let's play what she said.
I think it'd be a great ticket. Why not?
Are you guys, no, in all seriousness, are you guys thinking about doing what Reagan did in '76, announcing a running mate during this process? Like, is that what really is?
It certainly is possible, Chuck. I think it's wise to transport the voter into the first day, first week, first month, first year of the Gingrich presidency, so they can see what it's all about and get out of this process that we're in right now.
Steve, so is the Gingrich-Perry ticket something that's just being floated out in hopes of wooing some of those Southerners tomorrow, or do you believe that's real? And would it matter?
Probably a little. Probably a little bit of both. I mean, you look at the fact that the Texas primary is still coming up in May, and that's something that the Speaker is banking quite heavily on. It's got the third most delegates, I believe, behind California and New York, maybe the second most. Newt, actually, in terms of the Republican National Committee's hard-counted delegates, is in second place. But I think before we even have this conversation, and don't forget, I mean, the Speaker wrote the foreword to Rick Perry's book, Fed Up, a couple of years ago. But before we get to this point, Newt's got to show well tomorrow night in Alabama and Mississippi. And I think the worst thing that could happen for Newt and Santorum is if they essentially split the conservative vote and allow Romney to hand Romney another 30% anemic, weak win in a deep southern state. That is, I think, the worst thing, almost as bad as watching Romney say good morning, y'all, and how much he likes grits. I'm reminded of a Saturday Night Live skit about John Kerry when they said, hey, listen, it's not flip-flopping, it's pandering, and there is a difference.
Well, the last time I spoke with you, you said the only way you would support Mitt Romney, since you are a true conservative, would be if you heard a voice from God. I thought about you yesterday while I was in church. Did you hear anything from the Lord?
Yes, and he told me to keep my powder dry, Tamron.
Okay, thank you, Steve. AB, I won't drag you into this religious conversation. I'll let you off the hook. Thank you both kindly. All right.